This episode is brought to you by Indie Film Hustle Academy, where filmmakers and screenwriters go to learn from top Hollywood industry professionals. Learn more at ifhacademy.com. Yeah, I wanted to touch on Dark City before we get to iRobot.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Because you forgot about that little movie called Dark City.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Dark City was one of those films that has become a cult classic because I remember when it came out, if I remember correctly, please remind me, it definitely wasn't a runaway hit, but it was.
Oh no, not at all.
Not at all, right? Like people didn't know what to do with it, and it was well beyond its heyday. But it is so visual and so beautifully crafted, and up to that point, I mean, I can't remember other than maybe The Crow of something being so viscerally visual in its storytelling I mean, you look at Dark City, there is a direct line to The Matrix. I'm not saying that they took anything, but I'm just saying that there's definitely inspiration picked up from Dark City. I mean, you could just see the through line so clearly. Yeah. And that was New Line. So that was Warner's at the time. And how does like a movie like that obviously would never get greenlit today. The Crow would have a tough time getting greenlit today.
Oh yeah, The Crow would have a slightly easier time because it's based on something. Right?
IP, right?
An original like that, it would be really hard to make. Very very hard to make.
What was the budget, by the way? What was the budget of Dark City, if you mind me asking?
It was like 25 million or something at the time, which was even at the time was not much. It should have been probably at least 75 million. For what we were trying to do in the film. I remember just the visual effects budget itself was $1 million, which sounds like an Austin Powers movie.
Is that all it was? It was only $1 million?
That was it. $1 million was the entire budget, the VFX budget, because we built a lot of it too, a lot of the sets and stuff, and barely managed to, we shot as much as we could, and we basically they shut us down because we just ran out of days. And they had to give us some extra money, like another $1 million something to bring the actors back and finish it. I remember New Line basically said, that's it. I was saying, but I'm not done. And they go, well, show us the cut, come over and show us the cut and we'll decide whether you're done or not, And I showed it to them and they said, well, it doesn't make any sense. It's bits of it are missing. I go, well, there's a reason for that.
We're not done.
So anyway, they eventually gave me some more money to finish the bits that were missing. And but yeah, it was a low budget movie. There's no question. It was harder. What we were doing in that for roughly double the budget of The Crow, but what we were trying to do was actually much harder than that,
Yeah, I mean, look, I remember. Well, you built a lot of you did a lot of modeling in The Crow, if I remember correctly, too, right? You did models of the city, and that's why that has such an amazing, because that was all pre-CG worlds. Really, I think Jurassic Park had just hit, so
yeah, exactly.
That whole world it was just starting to come up. So you did a lot of practice, and I know you did a lot of practicals on Dark City as well. Anyone listening who has not seen Dark City, do yourself a favor and watch it, because you'll see it and go, oh my God, there's so many movies I've taken from this. It's kind of like you watch The Matrix and they're like, oh, everyone's stolen from The Matrix. Like, oh, it seems passé, but The Matrix was leading one of those films that kind of just, blew the doors open on a lot of stuff. And so many people just took it. I mean, bullet time, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. But, The Matrix didn't invent bullet time. Bullet time was invented on commercials.
Right, on the Gap.
And just to take a little bit away from The Matrix for a moment. And
they have enough.
Where I went terribly wrong in Dark Cities, I should have had some more kung fu in it. I think I would have been probably more successful.
If you would have had more kung fu, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's all related. Dark City was definitely an influence, though, as you rightly pointed out, it was a disaster at the box office. It was partly a disaster because it took us. They kept putting it off. The release originally was to be released maybe a year before it came out, and they went. They said, "Oh, there's this film called The Titanic coming out, and it looks like it's going to do okay. So I think originally we were going to open on the weekend, the opening weekend of the Titanic, you know, and then we went, let's put it off a couple of months, right? And then the Titanic came out, and of course we know about the Titanic, and it kept building and getting bigger and bigger and building, and they kept saying, oh, we'll put it off another couple of months again, you know, and eventually it ended up being like, as I say, I think it was 8 or 9 months later than the original release.
Oh, wow.
When the film was eventually released, you know, because they were just staying away from the Titanic. They had no idea how long they'd have to wait to stay away from the Titanic, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of amusing. But it's also, the film was not, it was not really promoted very well, because the studio themselves didn't really get it, you know.
Sure.
No one got it. No one got the film. You know, it was even like the trailer that came out was like I think it was a good trailer. I liked the trailer. It was very creatively done, but it didn't really tell you anything about the story.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a bunch of images, you know, and so people were kind of, you know, if you don't tell them something about a story, it doesn't matter how pretty the pictures are, they're just not going to go and see it. You know?
Can you remind me? There's a French director who did a movie, and it reminds me a lot of Dark City. He eventually did Alien Resurrection. They brought him over to do Children. Is it?
Oh yeah.
What's his name?
Yeah, that's
What was the movie?
I'm blanking on his name,
but the movie Children
it was called City of Lost Children.
That was it.
City of the Lost Children. I think
such
beautiful film, absolutely gorgeous imagery. You know, and you know, came for Dark City, but Dark City was really conceptually very different.
Oh,
to
completely.
that film. You know, there's some visual similarities. Yeah, I mean, my film was more about, we were kind of riffing on Metropolis, Fritz Lang's Metropolis.
Oh, without question.
And Akira, Akira to a certain extent. So, you know, that's kind of more my influence.
Would you ever make Akira if they offered it to you?
I'm not a huge fan of. I mean, I love Akira. I love the comic and I love the movie. But I'm not a huge fan of remaking stuff, because I kind of go, well, I mean,
it's been done.
It's been done. It's been done really well. And so why would a Hollywood version, particularly in our current climate, do it better? I don't think it's possible. You know, I mean, look at what happened to Ghost in the Shell. You know, that's a sort of classic example.
Yeah.
You just can't. You know, this stuff can't be done. Can't be overly refined, to put it nicely. Overly developed. You have to go with the raw ingredients that you've got to work with. And I don't think there's anyone in Hollywood now who would finance such a version of any of this stuff. You know.